to welcome head coach Tanya Fisher. She coaches both the boys and girls cross country and track at Santa Monica High School. And she is also one of the coaches of the women's masters and elite running team, the Janes. So welcome, Tanya. We're so excited to have you. My first question to you is, tell us about how you got started running. I'd love to hear about, the age group running in Southern California, your experience in Germany, your last 2 years in high school, and then running at UCLA, and finally the Santa Monica Track Club. So how did you get started?
Well, thank you, Charlotte. And, I think, one of the things that got me into running was just, I was very hyper as a kid, and I still am. And so if I don't have my run in the morning, for example, it just seems like my day just unravels. So it's really helped me to focus and stuff. And even at a young age, my mom always put me in like lots of sports, gymnastics, horseback riding, whatever, because she just knew if I didn't do something, I was like a terror in the house. So she one day said, just go run around the block. Like I was bugging her, and I literally took her at her word, and I ran around the block, and I came right back, and she's like, what? Go do it again, So anyways, I just had this like affinity to running, and she noticed that when I came back I was tired and it was like really good. So she found a running club locally. At that time there was just what's called AAU. I think it's still around, but it's shifted to USATF, but back then it was AAU, and there were like lower level clubs, and then there were also like national level clubs, and it's kind of like the AYS soccer, you have your AYSO, and then you have these like really high level club teams. And that's kind of what I compare it to. So I ran for the West Valley Eagles. I live in Southern California. The Valley is San Fernando Valley. And it was just a small club, and it was like at the local high school, and it was twice a week, and it was fun. It was really low key. And then, right away, I established myself as like one of the faster girls, and the coach actually said, you should go to another meet. This is like too easy for you. There's other meets out here that are like, kind of better. And I did go to one of them, and I just remember looking at all the girls, and you could just tell everyone was like way better, fancier uniforms, and it was very important to me. And I saw one of these, like one girl that I had like a yellow and a black uniform, and it just stood out, and she seemed really nice. And I just walked right up to her, and I'm like, hey, what team do you run for? And she said, Rialto Roadrunners. And if you go back into history, Rialto, and I didn't even know, I just liked her uniform. But
right.
Like Rialto Roadrunners back then was the team to be. And I didn't know that at the time, but the girl that I approached, her name is Vicki Cook, and she held, probably age group records from 5 years old all the way to 12, 13, 14 years old. And if you look, she's number one in the mile. She did race walking. And it was just funny. I mean, that's the first girl I talked to, and she's been my best friend ever since,
So you joined the Rialto Track Club, and you started to really become sort of one of the very top age group runners in your area, probably in the nation. So from there, you've become passionate about running. What happened after that? I know you went to Germany at one point with your family.
So my father is German and my mom is Swiss, and I was brought up speaking German. It's my first language, so I'm bilingual. And my father, he's an engineer, and he was asked to do a joint project, America, Germany, for it's called Litton Industries. They do like aerospace, and he worked on gyroscopes, which is just kind of like up and down. And anyway, so they started this joint project, and he was asked to go to Germany for at least 2 years, maybe 3 years. And so as a family, we moved. We just moved right to the area. It's the southern part of Germany. It's called Freiburg. And so, you don't run for your high school. I mean, when I moved there, I was going to be in the 9th grade, and I was looking forward to high school, but then like I got uprooted, and I, didn't know the system, didn't know anyone, didn't know like what's going on. And, luckily I had this experience kind of with the Rialto Roadrunners because we did travel and we
Right,
were like nationally ranked. So we had status and,
right,
you know, so I kind of had that idea where I wanted to, you know, run at a high level.
right,
And so, but in Germany, it's completely separate. So you don't
right,
run for your high
right.
school, you run for a club. And so now you have to shop around for a club. And so, you know, we go to, you know, we look it up and then you go to the facilities and every facility is beautiful. I mean, they have locker rooms, they have a weight room, they have volleyball court, you know, like all the equipment. So it's very like holistic approach.
Right,
It's not
right,
just like, okay, we're just going to run track. No, it's
right.
like, okay, you can do circuit training. You know, during the winter, we did cross country skiing because there was
Wow.
snow on the ground. It was the Black
Yeah,
Forest, so
yeah,
area.
yeah.
You know, so it's just kind of, I say a holistic approach because,
Right.
you know, I wasn't, you know, I did cross country skiing. You know, we played basketball in the winter because you just had to, the
Fantastic.
idea was just to keep fitness. You didn't go run every day. You did a lot of drills and stuff like that. So going back to the shopping of the club, there's a lot of fancy clubs where very high prices per month. So
Right,
it's kind of like the club sports here where you have to
right,
pay, you know, a significant amount. And at the time we were like, okay, well, this is too expensive or this is too,
right,
there were just too many rules. You
right,
know, you can only do this. You had to buy your uniform. You had to
right.
wear this. You couldn't, I mean, it was just unbelievable. And I kept saying like, it didn't feel right. It just
Right.
didn't feel right to me. And so outside of the city, there are little towns, and I just happened to meet another. It's just I always meet somebody, and then I feel like, oh,
Serendipitous.
yeah, it is. That's just how things happened in my life. I met this young lady. She seemed like she was really running fast, and I said, "Hey, you know, what club do you run for?" And she's like, "This. It's going to sound weird, but it's TV Staufen, which was the name of a town."
Right.
And I'm like, well, you seem nice. Like, who's your coach or how does it work? And she's like, why don't you come to a practice? And I did.
Uh-huh.
And immediately I gravitated toward the coach because he was funny and he was a little
And you were
like
a kid.
odd. And I was like 13 years old, you know, and he just made me feel like I was part of the group, even though they were much older. It was probably like 16, 17, 18, like, you know, they call them juniors or
Right.
not youth,
Right.
you know, juniors. And they were good, you know, it was like a very small group and they were distance runners. And, you know, but I felt like comfortable. And I think the reason was that he had some international experience, like he had
Right.
gone to Australia. So he was always trying to use his English with his German. And I don't know, I just, like it just felt like, oh, this is a place for me. And that connection just really, I ran 2 years for that club and he was great at really getting me to work hard in but making it fun. I think that was very important.
So you had
And
said something about circuits, and I think,
oh
oh
yeah,
my gosh, this must have been the early '80s, late
yeah,
'70s.
yeah,
We weren't
79.
doing that kind of thing in the United States. I know we
No,
weren't.
not at
So
all.
talk a little bit
We did
about
a
that.
lot of core strength. Like we did a lot of sit-ups, push-ups. Like it's so funny because like that's what's so hot right
Oh
now.
yeah,
So for example, like we would do like 2 or 3 laps easy, and then we would go right into drills. Okay,
right,
and then we would sit down and we would do, you know, almost like yoga almost. I mean, like it's just all cord like, you know, we did bird dog. I don't know if you know what
oh
that
yeah,
means,
of
but a lot
course.
of like coordination, and
And
like
core.
sit-ups and push-ups. And then we would go and do jump rope, and then we would go and do like step ups on boxes or stairs, you know, and it's kind of like a circuit training. But that was like we did a warm-up for like 45 minutes before we even
Right,
did anything, you know, and that
right,
was just normal, you know, and it was, but it was fun because it was so new for me. I had never done anything like that. And everyone's talking and joking around, and you know, and it's interesting because just like 2 years ago I started doing this now with my high
right,
school. It
right,
really kind of connects all the kids, and especially you have stragglers coming because
right.
they're late, and you know they could just jump in instead of like losing, you know, whatever, like, you know, some kids are already gone. At least everyone kind of focuses.
So
So.
when you came back to the United States after being in Germany, and by the way, I know that you had great success in Germany. You were
Yeah,
supported by the German government. You
correct.
traveled. Talk a little
Yes.
bit about that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So that, like I said, the system's a lot different. It is sponsored by the government,
Right.
and it's kind of like the USATF, but
Right.
I feel like USTAF is almost separate. So again, the German government liked to sponsor and kind of like foster young runners, and their whole idea is like to have a national team and then the Olympic team. So
Right.
they group it into A being a group A Olympic team. Group B is, sub Olympics. They're just right there. They're, national,
Right.
and they're older women. So it's usually 18 years and plus.
Oh, and above.
Then they had like C and D was just what we call juniors. And that would be anywhere from 18 and below. And I was like considered a C and a D and a C, because I was new. Some of these athletes are there for a while. And once you're in the system, because I had won a few championships, they wanted you to learn. So they're fostering, they're kind of developing. And so once a month, I would go to a seminar. I would get my train ticket. It's kind of like you went to a university usually.
Right.
You would stay in the dorms with other runners, other top
Yes.
runners, and you'd spend the night and you'd have a seminar in the morning. So you would have a coach speak to you. They would talk about different technique. One time I also had, a test done on my VO2 max. So
Oh, wow.
if you know Germans, they like facts. They want
Numbers.
to know everything, and it's very detailed. So we'd have to run on a treadmill. And I'm 13 years old and I'm like wearing the thing and running on a treadmill. And I'm like, wow, this is so crazy, but it was fun too, because then we'd all have, like eat meals and you just relax and you learn your competitors, right? I mean, these are the girls that were the top girls in Germany and everyone knew who we were.
Right.
And then the goal was to move on to the next level, right? So,
Right.
if you reached a certain time standard, then you would be, let's say, in the B standard. And I was hitting the B standard almost. And if you were there, you would also be invited to national competitions, but also against other countries. So it was just this unique system. You really felt like you were elite and that you were taken care of, and that you were getting knowledge. So at a young age, I was already getting this idea, and I was honestly like one of the youngest people in this group, which is interesting to me. I think it just helped me mature. And it really made me interested in the sport. So at a young age, I'd already had this like curiosity. I was learning, I was being taught different things. And also that there's so many different methods. We talked about nutrition. That's the other thing I wanted to bring up. Again, like the holistic approach, it's not just, what workouts you're doing. It's also the rest. It's the food. It's, really like, just in general, how you approach your training.
And you're a part of it. You're a part of this. I mean, in a sense, you are being taught so that as you move forward, you have this information about yourself. So what was it like when you came back?
Oh, yeah.
And started your junior year of high school?
It's funny, Charlotte. That's a really good question, because when I ran in Germany, everyone knew I wasn't German, like, wait a minute. I mean, but then when I came back, it was funny because, I had taken classes at a German public school. So my credits and everything was messed up, and I would go to the public school and they're like, we don't even know what to do with you. So I went to a small private school that was just down the street. It's Catholic school. I was like, okay, for 2 years I can deal with this. And when I got there, they didn't really have a program, and I kind of had to start like a program, and I recruited 5 girls, and I'm like, hey, I want to run these races. And so I think, again, that's another piece to where I became a coach, where I had to organize and figure it out, because the coach was a math teacher that just came after school, didn't really know what he's doing, and I was like, all right. So I had all this knowledge. I knew what I had to do, and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to go do my workout. I'll check.
You must have been a pretty good coach when you think about it, because at that point in time, by the time you were a senior, you had the best time in the mile in the United States, the best time in the 2 mile, and you were one of the most recruited high school girls at that point in time. So you where did you go after that?
I went to UCLA. I got a full scholarship to UCLA. And again, I just think back of what I was saying to you before about how, you know, everyone, like I went to Stanford on my recruiting trip, and at the time it was Brooks Johnson.
Right.
And, you know, if you know Brooks Johnson, he's
I
a
do.
great coach, he's a great technician, but I just didn't like his manner. I mean, oh my God, the first time I heard him swear, I was like, uh, I don't know what's going on here, you know.
So why did you choose UCLA?
Again, I think same reasons when I was looking for a club in Germany. I just felt like if I'm going to do this, I want to have fun. And I'm not saying like fun, yay, but more just I want to feel comfortable. I want to enjoy what I'm doing. And I
Right.
want to be treated not like an equal, but like collaborative. I just tend to work better with people that maybe are more open, that have different ideas, that also listen. I think that's another one that I really gravitated to. And so the coach at UCLA, his name was Scott Chisholm, very high energy. Like, again, sense of humor was really important for me. And like, he just came and I just felt comfortable, right? Like I said, UCLA wasn't even on my radar because it was in my backyard.
Right.
And I wanted to go to Berkeley, I wanted to go to Stanford, maybe Wisconsin, maybe, you know, even Oregon.
Right.
And so, but when I went to go visit these colleges, I just could see myself like I'd be unhappy. Like I don't feel like part of the team, or I don't feel close to the coach. Like that was really important to me. And I wanted someone, because I didn't have a coach technically in high school.
Right.
I wanted someone that really connected with me and that was going to help me get to another level, you know?
Right.
So Scott just was like really fun. He had great ideas. We traveled. That was appealing. You know, he said, you know, we go all over the country, you know, and I was like, okay, I'm in.
Yes.
And then the other bonus, and this is funny, the girl that I talked about when I joined the Rialto Roadrunners, she was running for UCLA. So Vicki Cook was
Vicki.
part of that. And how could I say no? I remember her saying, Tanya, just come to the recruiting visit so we could just have fun. You know, I know you don't want to go here. And
Right.
then, of course, you know, I get there and it's like, what am I thinking? This is the best place for me. And I never looked back. I had a great experience. I did want to say my first year, I ran really well. I went to NCAAs. It was exciting. There were so many great UCLA legends, or, you know, track people. I mean, Susie Favor, or I'm sorry, Susie, oh gosh. Anyway, she was a thrower. I just blanked on her name, but also Jackie Joyner Kersey, you know,
Legend.
Michelle Bush, Linda Gowen. These were my senior, and I was a freshman at the time.
Right.
So here are some great role models, you know, and so I was really happy with the choice. And anyway, so I ran 4 years,
And
and
so you had a really good career at UCLA. You ran both cross country and track. Then you graduated, and I know you
correct.
were going to go on to graduate school. You're
Yes.
an artist,
Mhm.
and you decided to join the Santa Monica Track Club. Talk a little bit about that, because again, we're talking about coaches. And how
Yes.
did you choose the Santa Monica Track Club?
You know, it's, first of all, I was living in Santa Monica. At the time I was working at the Santa Monica High School, and it just seemed like a right fit. And I realized, like, you know, in 1996, I started teaching at Santa Monica High School in 93.
Right.
And I had taken some time off. I had graduated from Cal State Northridge for my master's in 1990. So started working, you know, and I was running a little bit, but not competing. And then, you know, I felt like I had things going for me. You know, I had my job, I was starting to coach, you know, and I just wanted to get back on that like competitive side. And I said, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I want to find a really good coach that's going to push me.
Right.
And, you know, and so I made an appointment with Joe Douglas, who was, you know, the the Santa Monica Track Club coach. And I remember going to his office, and, you know, you go in his office and there's pictures of Carl Lewis, you know, it's just like, holy Jesus, like you just go, wow, this is like track legend, you know. And here's this very short man, high energy, and he's just like, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Da, da, da. And he was just so like energetic, and he's like, you know, I can make you great. Let's get going, you know, but you're going to have to work hard.
And I go, I don't mind working hard. And he's like, no, 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 you don't understand. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And he's like, no, you don't. Anyways, but you know, his approach was just so disciplined, and you know, and it was almost like, and I do have to say this, I can say this now, but like I was a little scared because his approach is really my way of the highway in a sense.
Right.
And you know, I wasn't used to that, you know,
Right.
because like before, like I said, I had a lot of collaboration, it was more fun, and you know, Joe's all business, you know, you're not messing around here. And you know, I needed that though. I knew I needed that if I wanted to make it to the trials, because that was my goal in 1996. I wanted to go to Atlanta. I wanted to be, you know, see how close I can make it to the team. I'm not sure if I could, you know, but Joe had really high goals, you know, and he's like,
Well, and tell us about what you ran to make it to the trials. You were one of 23 women in the United States who actually made the Olympic standard for 5K,
yes,
which was 16
correct.
minutes. Talk a little
Yeah.
bit.
So at the time, you know, it was 16 minutes, and then I ran 15:44. And, you know, to do that, I had to get up in the morning and run, you know, 4 to 5 miles before I went to work. Then I would work a full day at the high school, coach, come home. And at 5 o'clock, we'd meet at Santa Monica City College, and we'd do a 2 to 3 hour track workout.
Wow.
And then I would, you know, go to bed, eat, and then start over again. And I even remember Joe, like in the middle of the season, like when I started running really well, like where it was just, you know, things were clicking. He's like, you know, this might be a good time for you to quit your job.
Whoa.
And I was just so like shocked. I was like, oh yeah, who's going to pay my bills? Are you going to pay my bills? Great, I'll do it. And he's like, I'm just saying you might have to, you know, like, because his idea was you need to be 100% in, you know, and that was really tough for me because I like to do many things, you know, I have different interests, and that's just how I operate. And I was like, I told Joe, I go, I can't do it. I would get very bored, or I would get too much like enclosed in just my training that I wouldn't have any outlets. And I need this. I need the teaching. I need the coaching because it fulfills me. Then I have the energy to go and do what I want to do in terms of my running. And we disagreed on that. And it was tough to have him kind of accept my view because I wasn't going to let go. You know, I kept saying, if you want to pay me, sure. But, you know,
Well,
at the time,
and we should remind everybody that this was a period of time where, you know, women at your level were not necessarily being paid to run.
oh, not at all.
No.
You know, and
you were
just
training for double workouts, working. I mean, it really is a whole different picture than it is today.
I would get up, do my run, go to work, you know, then hammer out on the track, come home, eat, you know, and it's like, I just remember like thinking, I actually did think this once, like, wow, it'd be so nice to have like, you know, like a job, or not even a job, just like funds where I could just focus 100% on my you know, my running. And then I really thought about it philosophically. I said, that's not for me. I mean, I would like some money, of course, but to make it easier. But it's just, yeah, at the time that even at being on Santa Monica Track Club, I had to earn my track uniform and my shoes. Like there was this whole hierarchy, and like if I set it a certain time, then I got a free pair of shoes, you know. And this is the Santa Monica Track Club, you know, like it was, you know, because there were so many stars on the team, you know, obviously they had a lot of other stuff, you know, but it was just, to your point, Charlotte, it was a tough time. It was, you know, not like it is today. That's all I want to say.
Well, and to move forward, as you ended up coming in 7th in the 1996 trials, which is incredible, you know, and you really accomplished what you had set out to do, not only as an athlete, you were working too, you know, so you did it all. And I'm sure for some people that would almost be an impossibility. I mean, you've got a lot of energy and a lot of interest. So, so moving on, at that point, you, we're at Santa Monica High School. Now, did starting the Janes come before becoming the head track coach and cross country coach?
Yes, correct. So just a little bit about Santa Monica High School. So when I first was hired on, it was like, you're an art teacher, and I was a drawing teacher, and then I became a sculpture teacher, and then I became a ceramics teacher. And your first couple of years, you're like in the trenches, and you're just like, how am I going to manage? And it's just time management and just like dealing with new lessons and just working. It's like any new job, And then I was approached by Pat Katie, who at the time was the head track coach there. And I just say, I've always met people that have always mentored me, or like I felt like that we were on the same level. Again, the sense of humor, the compassion. And he was kind of a forward thinker at the time. I mean, this is 1993 is when I started. And he said, I need a female on my staff. He said, there's just a bunch of old men. That's how he said it. And you bring a lot of energy, and you would be a great role model for my young ladies. And so I first was just kind of volunteering, just kind of helping out. And then I got a bigger role. He wanted me to get paid like a stipend. So he said, you know what, I'm going to give you the boys head coach, the boys cross country coach title. Wow. And then I started coaching the boys. And it was like, at the time I was like, well, shouldn't I be coaching the girls? Like, wait, but he was like, no, this is good. We're co-coaching. We can learn from each other. And again, I'm very fortunate to have someone that, just even thought that was okay. Because at the time, that's kind of unusual,
And didn't have the ego in a sense to say,
correct,
I'm coaching the boys, I'm willing to do that. Wonderful.
Yeah. And so by by the time I was starting to train, so anyways, I became the head boys coach, and we coached together for a long, long time. And he retired in, gosh, now I have to think, it was today's 2020, so 7 years ago. That's like 2012, 2013. He had some health problems. He was getting older. He was a teacher at the school, but stopped teaching, but still kept the head track coach position. But his health was kind of declining. He had to get a hip surgery, then it was a knee surgery, and and it just, I kept taking more and more, just because I'd say, oh, I'll take the girls, or oh, let me take care of this. And so it was kind of this natural kind of transition, even though I never wanted to be the head coach, because I just saw how much work it was.
Right.
And so so
you had come into that point in your life where you were no longer really training to make the Olympic trials, or
correct.
But you were still very involved in running, and so it was sort of organic in a way.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of when I'm just even telling you these stories, I feel like I'm very fortunate to like meet people that kind of just come into my life and that have pushed me in a good direction.